The Tao of Self-Confidence, episode 159. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women finding their inner journey to self-confidence 5 days a week. Get your free audiobook by visiting thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Well, hello friend. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan, and today I have a special lady on today. She is an artist, a community catalyst, and an illuminator, and she's here today to share her story on self-confidence and the journey that she's been through. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Lisa Chu. Lisa, how are you today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
Great. Thank you, Sheena. I'm doing great. I live in California, right on the ocean. A little bit more about myself. I guess my journey started out a little bit more traditionally. I have background in medical training, and then I was in the financial world, and then I made a leap to move to California from the Midwest to start a violin school. That was in 2004, and I've been in California ever since, and I had the violin school for 6 years, and now I am a life coach and a sound healer and visual artist and community cross-pollinator, kind of using all of that experience to bring people together.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And Lisa, what's your cultural background?
I was born in the Chicago area, and my parents are both Taiwanese Chinese immigrants. So they came to the U.S. in the 60s.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And, what would be your favorite self-confidence quote?
My favorite one, which is actually right here in front of me in my office, is by Eleanor Roosevelt. And it goes, "You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face. You must do the thing you think you cannot do."
I love that. And thanks for sharing that, because sometimes, especially women, we tend to resist the things that fear us, and not knowing that if we just step over that, that's when we can see the things that we want in our life, right? And sometimes it just takes that extra step to just face fear in the face or punch fear in the face and just go out there and do it. So I really love that quote that you mentioned. And, in your own words, how would you define self-confidence?
Yeah, that's a question I've been thinking about ever since you asked me to do this interview. And what I notice is that it has changed. I mean, I think in the first part of my life, I was taught to learn how to do things and achieve things and have a lot of skills that would give me confidence. So there are things outside myself that I would learn how to do and achieve. And in the recent chapter of my life, I've discovered by choice and choosing to kind of approach things differently and learn in a different way. Self-confidence now is about trusting my inner guidance and my own experience. And, in our society, we receive a lot of messages about what we should want or have or be. And that actually, I've found, pulls me out of my own self-confidence and into someone else's definition that I'm always trying to chase and meet. And I might have achieved a lot of the things that our marketing messages tell us to achieve, but it really doesn't fill me. So at the end of the day, I feel empty from that. But this new definition of self-confidence that I have been discovering and is still unfolding for me is about trusting what's true for me, even if it's totally unpopular or crazy to other people. I have ultimate confidence if it comes from a place of truth in me. So that's a bit of a shift for, that has happened in my life.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And it's, especially for like Asian women, it's really challenging to do things like that, trusting your own experiences, especially we've been programmed to, just go to school, get a job, and just work for the rest of your life, right? Or get married. And when we step out of those boundaries, like you said, people might think we're nuts, we're crazy, we might be shaming the family, but, in the end, it's our journey, right? We have to learn how to just go out there and live life on our own and not always have to live life based on other people's expectations. So I really love that definition that you mentioned. And, What was your life like before your discovery of self-confidence?
So again, this is an interesting question because if I were to look at myself, wouldn't say that I ever struggled with self-confidence because I was always a high achiever. So I always had this sort of external thing I could lean on to say, hey, I went to these schools or I did these things. I mean, you heard me even introduce myself today in that way because actually what I found is they're kind of touchstones for people in the outside world to relate to something about me. So if you say artist, community catalyst, and illuminator, people are like, great. What does that mean? So I guess life before this shift to internal guidance was more like, oh, I had great things to say at the cocktail party that people recognized and they could actually give other people a sense of reassurance about knowing something about me. But it was never something that I felt deeply connected to personally. So I was sort of, I guess I would describe my life before this shift as sort of an out-of-body experience, as like disconnected from what I now know is the truth. But I will also say that during, I didn't know that at the time. I felt great. I thought life was great, actually, because I was fulfilling all these other expectations that people had, and it was very convenient and pretty smooth to go through life with a neat story that people could understand. This recent phase of shift to really following my inner guidance, the story is less convenient, less linear, takes longer time for people to take in, and many people will never understand it, including my own friends and family sometimes. So that's a difference that maybe is unexpected, where people think, oh, if I had more self-confidence, my life would get better. In a way, there's things that shift that are socially less convenient, but for the soul are totally fulfilling.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And yeah, I mean, when you do things on your own, people will never understand what you're doing. But, as long as you know what you're aligned with, your vision and what your true purpose is, I mean, it's not going to matter. So, what was that point in your life when you realized that, you didn't always have to follow other people's expectations, that you can, live life, based on your own experiences and your inner purpose and your inner guidance?
I think there were several moments that have unfolded, and the first one was definitely I got to this point where I realized that no matter how much I achieved, I went to the schools I was supposed to go to. I got the degrees I was supposed to get. I got the jobs I was supposed to get, and I realized that none of that was ever going to actually make anyone totally happy. And I guess I'm talking about my parents. That I realized that no matter what I achieved, it would never really give them that sense of peace or happiness that I had this storyline in my head that it would give them. So it was that moment where I was like, oh, now I'm free. So if it doesn't matter really what I do, what would I do? And it was a series of, I guess, there were several aha moments. One was just like realizing I didn't have to practice medicine, so I didn't do a residency. So I graduated from medical school without a job. The second was realizing that even, making a lot of money in a job is not really what it's about. And that's, what led to moving out to California and following this dream. And then most recently, I would say the biggest aha moment that shaped this recent chapter of my life was in an improvisation workshop, music improvisation workshop, where, I had been classically trained in violin and piano since age 3, and I was teaching violin classically at that time, and I found myself in an improvisation workshop, and I thought, I'll just observe this thing called improvisation because it's not me. It's not what I do. It's not who I am. And I was, in fact, told by many teachers just to forget about that whole thing because it's not what you need to do. And of course, in that moment when I'm watching the entire room in this workshop, 30 people having a lot of fun doing this blues, jazz thing. I was just watching. I had my violin with me and was kind of hiding behind the instructor and just hoping I would not get asked to participate. And at that moment, he turned around and pointed at me and said, "You, solo." And I just froze. And it was that moment of fear. It was like the thing I couldn't do, which was to participate and be asked to just play something, make something up. Couldn't do it. And he was a very compassionate teacher and had come up from classical training as well. And he said the 4 words that are still the most powerful words that any teacher has ever said to me. And they were, "Play the wrong note." And at that time in my life, given what I was doing and how I had, tried to live for so long, it was like I heard what he said and I understood at some level what it was, but I couldn't do it. I was still frozen. And he had to physically take my finger and put it on the fingerboard and hold it in a place where he knew that I wouldn't like the sound. And he held it there and he said, "Play that." And my bow arm wouldn't move to make that sound on the violin. So, the big aha in that moment was just how hardwired neurologically I was to do things a certain way, which I was told was the right way. But there's a whole other universe of in-between things that I call wrong that I just never tried or allowed myself to try, that actually kept me from participating in a broader experience. In that case, it was the whole room. I couldn't join in with that activity. So it was really, after that, it was a choice of, am I going to live my life within the boundaries of what I thought was right? Or am I willing to play the wrong note and see? And there's many, many wrong notes. There's many possibilities. There's not just one wrong note. It's everything outside the boundaries of what I defined as right or what I was taught and believed was right. So an exploration of that, it's really been the framework of my entire life approach since then. That was 2009. And it's, it's a whole other philosophy that I could go into. And it's not about deliberately making mistakes or trying to do things wrong, but it's playing. It's finding out what is the boundary, the comfort zone in a particular situation, and saying, how can I play with what's outside this box? So that's my story of the waking up.
I love it. And, because especially, Asian women, we're always pretty much told to just live a certain way. And if we go outside of that, it's like we're shame, we're wrong, we're not the good daughter or wife or sister. So, when you're coming to that approach of playing the wrong note, it just shows that there's other ways to live life, right? And
yes.
And sometimes there's going to be hurdles like anything else in life, and people have to realize that you're just going to have to go through it and overcome them. And once you do, that's when, the magic happens. That's when things that you want in your life start attracting to you. So, that was a great aha moment. I really enjoyed that. And because of that, what's your life like now?
Well, it's much less predictable and much more fun. And I'm doing a lot more of what I've always wanted to do. And it's a daily process of shifting my attention to what I choose to bring in to my life and being aware of old patterns that keep me sometimes, in situations that are just not serving me. So it's kind of like always cleaning up and redirecting. And it's really moment to moment, day to day, and very fresh and alive, I would say. And yeah, my life is completely different. I live in a different place. I have a different relationship with my community where I live. I feel very much a part of it. I'm showing up with my creative gifts, with my best energy. And when I offer that, and that's how I show up, and that's how I'm seen, my experience of life is completely different. I'm not using my energy to put on any kind of show. I am just completely authentic and transparent in all situations, and that's very freeing.
I love it. Well, that's great that you're able to live the life that you want, be able to be your authentic self, and have that freedom that most people are, dying to have, right? And Lisa, to the woman who's listening to your episode, she may be also on her own journey to self-confidence. What would be that one tip you would give to her?
Well, take in everything that you can in terms of learning from your life, from your environment, from the teachers who show up, and from what you're called to learn, but also ignore everything that doesn't apply to you. I think that pairing of things is an art in terms of discerning what's valuable, staying open enough to learn as much as possible at all times, and to discard everything that has no purpose for you at this time. And so kind of that cycle of receiving and then letting go of the appropriate things is probably the most important thing. And I would say to really, it might seem like a huge territory to cross or a wall to climb in terms of where you are now, where you want to be, but it really comes down to very simple actions moment to moment, listening to your own body and doing even one tiny thing that serves the comfort of your own body in any moment can change the direction of your life, little by little. So have fun with it. Also, sometimes we make work out of this life change game and we can remember that it's meant to be fun. It's meant to be easy in a way, meaning giving us the ease of just being alive. So trying to find a way to just connect with what that is for you is what I would say.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that tip. And Lisa, if our listeners would like to connect with you and get to know a little bit more of what you do, is there any links or social media profiles we can connect with?
Yes, I have. I'll just mention my 4 websites. The main one is themusicwithinus.com. That kind of gives my whole bio and story and my life coaching practice, and then it has links to other activities. I also have a new site for my visual art called wildtomatoarts.com. That's where I'm putting all of my paintings and drawings. I also have my acoustic rock duo, ChineseMelodrama.com. So that's all my music performing activities are on there. And then the last one is called badasiandaughter.com. And that's mainly a video blog. It's been on and off for the last 6 or 7 years. Different truth-telling episodes that I share from my own life. And I'm on Facebook with all of those sites, as well as Twitter and LinkedIn. So those are all good ways to connect.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And to our listeners, if you want to connect with Lisa, you can also head on over to thetaoofselfconfidence.com and search for Lisa's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else we talked about. And I just want to thank Lisa for taking the time to share her story and journey with us. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheena, for finding me and inviting me to be part of this. It's a great project.
It was an honor to have you on. So to our listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of The Tao of Self-Confidence. Subscribe to The Tao of Self-Confidence on iTunes and Stitcher to hear more stories of amazing women finding their inner journey to self-confidence.